Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
Coming up, he's skewered almost every part of American life with his good-natured humor, including Idaho. Hi, I'm Marcia Franklin. Next on Dialogue, I engage in some lighthearted banter with the legendary Dave Barry. The Pulitzer Prize-winning humorist recounts some of his favorite misadventures in the Gem State and even serenades me. That's Dialogue next. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. Over the past 20 years, you've seen me interview some pretty darn serious people, politicians, historians, and lawyers among them. So I figured it was time for a little comic relief in the form of Dave Barry. Although this guy is definitely serious about his humor, I'm not even going to attempt to tell you how many books Barry's written because, as he would say, he's very likely sitting on the toilet writing a new one as I speak. And then there's the weekly syndicated columns he penned for the Miami Herald for more than 20 years. In 1988, Barry won a Pulitzer Prize for his, quote, consistently effective use of humor as a device for presenting fresh insights into serious concerns. There wasn't much of anything serious on our minds, though, as we sat down to talk at the 2014 Sun Valley Writers Conference. Well, it's great to have you here on Dialogue and back in Idaho. I say back in Idaho because other than the Everglades, this is kind of your backyard, isn't it?
I never go into the Everglades.
No,
I live in Miami, and the Everglades are there, and I went there maybe one time. And if you're a big fan of muck, it's a great,
So you just skip the Everglades in the country and you come right to Idaho?
Idaho. I've been to Idaho way more times than I've been to the Everglades. Not all the time, but I'm here every year. I try to be.
You've had plenty of escapades here, which we'll
I
talk
have had
about as
escapades,
well.
yeah.
A lot of fodder for
It should
your...
be called Idaho, the Escapade State.
That sounds better than
famous potatoes.
Yeah, well, or
No,
the
but
other mottos you've come up with are convenient to Montana.
Or a whole lot of dirt. Was that
a
one?
whole lot of rocks, I think.
Rocks, okay.
A whole lot of rocks. They haven't changed the license plates to those yet.
Well, I kind of like, as a Miami guy, as an East Coast person who loves to come to Idaho, I like that its motto is famous potatoes, because that is such a pathetically lame motto that it makes people in the East Coast, when they think about Idaho, think, well, who would want to go there? Potato. And this is literally true. When I tell people, they say, where are you going this summer? Always, we go to Idaho, we go there. Idaho. And they really don't know there's a difference between Idaho and Iowa. They just think it's a farm, a big farm.
So you think the famous potatoes keeps people away,
yes.
and it makes it better for people like you because it's...
Yes, and then therefore, I'm not on a plane with hordes of people trying to get here. Which you couldn't fit a horde of people on the planes that come here anyway. Like if it may be like a tenth of a horde.
Definitely.
Whatever that number would be.
Yeah, especially with the way planes are now.
Yeah.
I almost felt like it was a shame not to do this interview outside, on the spider jump that they've got set up out there, or in the pool.
You're a spider jump kind of gal, are you?
Yeah,
I
but
could see you could be bouncing.
Yeah.
Might be a little tricky. You'd have to ask the
Coordinate.
question as I went up, or we were together. Otherwise,
that could work.
It would be, yeah.
Some screaming could be involved, though,
yeah,
too.
Yeah, I think it would probably be your best-rated show. Yeah, come on. But first, we have to drink some beer before we would do that, I think.
I understand that you've violated a few of our laws here, including recently.
I did. Years ago, I came here, and my cousin-in-law, Ron Ungerman, and I decided we would go trout fishing because everybody always told us about trout. So we hired a guide in Ketchum, and we went trout fishing. And I did purchase a license, which you have to do.
I believe you.
But I forgot to take it with me. I left it in the car, and I'm thinking, like, well, so what? Who cares? I did the right thing. Who is in the world going to want to come out in this river? And in our waders, staggering around out there. It's not a very stable thing. So we're out there trying to catch a trout, which as I believe that you cannot catch. I've never caught a trout. I've never seen anybody else catch a trout. And I've never seen a trout. I don't believe there's such a thing as trout. I think the trout industry has created this myth of trout so that they can get guides and get you to go out there and wave this fuzzy little, particle
$50 thing
over the water as though something's going to happen. There's no trout. There's no trout. It's time. There's no trout. It's time that the word got out.
That could be on the license plate.
Idaho.
There's no
trout.
No trout. Yeah.
Idiots. So anyway, I'm out there, and an Idaho Fish and Game warden shows up. And we had a low...
In waders.
Well, you have to have, he waded out. I thought about running, but it would be very slow chase. Yeah. And he has a little siren on his head, so you have to... No, he doesn't. They don't. That would be cool, though, and they should do that.
And a fish head and all that, yeah.
And he wrote me a ticket. I mean, I'm thinking, like, are you serious? You can't be serious. But he wrote me a ticket for not having my license out there. And I didn't catch any trout because there are no trout. So I don't know why, you'd have to license.
I think they knew you were coming into town, and it was that comment about
clearly
Idaho, a whole lot of rocks, and they were on you.
So I got a license because I got a ticket for not having a license to catch a fictional animal. Like, it might as well give me a unicorn license as a trout. So then anyway, I did get out of that one. I got out of that ticket. I went and got my license and drove down to the courthouse in Haley and showed them that on the day I got the citation, I had earlier that day, so that was cool. But this time, I no longer try to fly to Haley because I've learned that that's also sort of a prank. The idea that planes will actually ever take off and land there.
Especially if there's a forest fire around you.
Or whatever, or a mosquito on the runway. There's a lot of problems that prevent you from taking off or landing. So I fly to Boise now and drive up, which is
you should have stopped by, gosh.
Right by where?
Our studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see any buildings at all between Boise and here. And do you do you live in a mound or something, or a cave?
A bunker.
There's a bunker.
It is actually the old fallout shelter that our office is in. But I digress.
So you're safe.
Very safe.
You can digress all you want because that's all I ever do. Basically, my career is digressing.
But you drove
so
from...
I'm driving up, and there's a stretch it's Route 20.
Yes.
Between the interstate and
through Fairfield.
75. It's like 80 miles of pretty much dead straight road, and it's 65 miles an hour. But people go routinely 111 because it's straight, and there's nothing there. It's nothing there. Except, as I found out this last tip, I'm going 67 miles an hour, which is slower than most of the other cars on the road. And I get pulled over by a Camas County, is it Camas or Camas?
Camas, yeah.
Camas County Sheriff pulls me over. And he goes, you have any idea why I pulled you? I guess they trained him to say that. You have any idea why I pulled? And I really didn't. I didn't think I was speeding. I said, no, I don't, officer. He goes, you were speeding through town. I'm like, what town? Well, it turns out there is a town there. It's called Fairfield. Yeah. And the only structure in Fairfield is a sign that says speed limit 45. But I thought it was like an imaginary town, like the Trout, Anyway, so he got me. I was going 67 in a 45 zone. So he wrote me a ticket. But then he gave me a lecture. And that was the part where it's hard for me to keep totally quiet, but I did, because there's no point in getting arrested in Camas County. But he said the reason I should slow down is he didn't mention anything about people, because there aren't any, no pedestrians or anything. There's livestock, or the animals get on the road. Deer, I don't think he mentioned the antelope, but then he said moose. And I'm thinking, okay, Mr. Camas County, you're telling me that in this 80-mile stretch, the only place where the moose appear is in Fairfield. They go like, well, let's go stroll across the road. Not here. We'll go to Fairfield where it's 45 and we're safe, I don't think the moose are having that conversation. But anyway, so so that's twice now. I live in Miami where there is constant crime everywhere, and I've never gotten any trouble there at all.
And it's a pretty erratic driving there, too.
And there's insane driving all over the place there.
Every country represented there.
People drive according to the laws of their country of origin in Miami.
But you had a fixer, didn't you? This is on the QT, of course.
Oh, yeah, well,
but you did have a fixer for this ticket.
Okay, since this is unlikely to ever be seen by anyone, I will say, I'm here at the Sun Valley Writers Conference, and one of the other guest authors here, Supreme Court Associate Justice Stephen Breyer,
has been on Dialogue.
Okay,
yeah.
He fixed my ticket. He said, Dave, I'll take care of it. I'm on the Supreme Court. Why do you think we have a Supreme Court? So he took care of that for me.
Yeah, I saw some snaps on your blog of you jawing with
he was a good
Justice Breyer.
Okay.
Were you delving into deep constitutional issues?
This is a total Sun Valley Writers Conference experience. This is why I love this thing. I'm standing there with Supreme Court Justice, and I wanted to get a picture of my blog. And I said, the idea behind this picture is that I'll be explaining a point of law to you, and you'll be looking, oh, I never thought of that. You know, that's the look we want. And of course, he says right away he'll do it.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
But then I need somebody to take the picture. So I ask Scott Turow. Oh, only Scott Turow. I say, Scott Turow, would you take a picture of me with the Supreme Court justice? He says, sure. Up walks Hector Elizondo.
Directed.
And he says, if I may, I'd like to direct. So he goes. So that Scott takes one picture, and Hector, promoting Justice Breyer to Chief Justice, said, Chief Justice Breyer,
oh, he's a Chief
said,
Justice.
if you would, please look up. And so he struck this pose, you know. So that I have a picture of me with a Supreme Court Justice taken by one of the best authors alive and directed by Hector Elizondo. That's why I love this writers' conference.
I think next year.
And of course this show, which is the highlight of everything.
Totally.
My life to date really was just going toward this point. As soon as this is over, I'm going to kill myself because it's not going to get any better.
At least do the spider jump first.
No, I'm not going to do this. I don't do the spider jump.
Well, yes, that's right.
Death is far preferable to the spider jump. Death before spider jumping is my motto, always has been.
I think the next step will be that Justice Breyer will ask you to write an opinion for him.
I'd happily write an opinion for him. I have many opinions, and he's welcome to them.
Let's talk a little bit more about some of the adventures you've had here, because Ridley Pearson is your conduit for these adventures.
Ridley's the guy.
Consigliere, or is that the right word?
I don't know if you call Ridley a consigliere, but he's the reason I come to Idaho. He has lived here. Well, you know, it's a house. He used to live here full time, but he still has a house here. And he's the guy who got me to come here. I never would have ever thought of coming to Sun Valley if it had not been Ridley. He is insane, also.
He thinks about murdering people and things like that.
One of my favorite Ridley stories, because it's true, because I saw it happen. He has he's a psychotic, I think, maybe.
Very nice one, though.
He's a sweet. That's why I tell people, don't be fooled. He's always thinking of how to kill you. He's just not telling you. But one of the first times I ever came here, he hadn't been to his house for a few weeks, and so we needed supplies for breakfast. So we get up early, and we get in late, and so we get up in the morning, go down to the Haley little store there to buy breakfast stuff. And I wanted to get coffee, and they had one of those coffee grinders where you pour the beans into the grinder and then it grinds through into the bag. There's your coffee. So I do that, and I'm grinding the beans. And Ridley comes up and looks at it, and I see this aha moment. He goes, you know, somebody could put poison into the grinder, and the next person to come along would pour the beans on top of the poison. As it ground through, the poison would then be on the bottom of this bag of coffee. They'd take it home and make however many bags of coffee it was. But the last pot of coffee would kill everyone who drank it, and they would never know who did that. And then he just walked away and left me grinding my beans, you know.
And he proceeds to take you on all sorts of other adventures that are near-death experiences.
He took me the same trip that he came up with the idea of how to kill people with coffee. He said, you know, tomorrow I thought we would climb a tree. At the time, we were both like middle-aged guys, and I'm thinking, really, you know, I'm a house guest, so I'm going, okay, we'll go climb it. But it's kind of like if he had said, let's go play hide and seek, you know. I mean, this didn't strike me as the kind of thing you did as grown-ups. But what he really meant was he's like a serious tree climber. He and some of his buddies, they have tree climbing equipment. And what you wear, it looks like a giant athletic supporter. That's what it looks like you're wearing, a big green athletic supporter. And it has cables and things that, you know, I don't understand, and, you know, and ropes that you rappel with. And so okay, we're going to go climb a tree. I'm not big on heights, but I don't want to be the wimp guy. You know, there's two other guys. So we get in the car and we drive out past millions of very safe-looking trees, what I call a vertical tree, you know, which is the way God intended, a straight-up tree, you know, with a reasonable amount of, you know,
heft.
Heft is the word I'm looking for. Hefty vertical trees. So, no, Ridley has in mind a special tree, which is, I call it the death tree. Clearly the most dangerous tree in Idaho. How the fish and game people are going around arresting people for trying to catch non-existent trout and not doing anything about this tree, I don't know, but I'd like somebody to look into it. It's a tree, it's like this. It's like leaning like 45 degrees over a beaver pond. And that's the tree we're supposed to to climb, and we did. We climbed, and the beavers, of course, find this hilarious because they're like slapping their tails on the water to get other beavers. Hey, guys and giant athletic supporters are climbing the death tree. Come on, take a look at this. And so he made me go up, and then he made me rappel down it, which is basically falling out of the tree. They didn't tell me that part either. So.
You lived, and you seem to keep coming back for more.
I came out, but you'll notice that I don't go back up trees. Well, you maybe don't notice, but I assure you, I don't climb trees anymore.
And some of the other adventures, you already mentioned fly fishing, kayaking. I loved reading about that.
I did. I did whitewater kayaking.
You're like I am. Your method of kayaking is to close your eyes so that the river doesn't see you.
Yeah, otherwise it senses your fear. The river.
And whitewater rafting.
I've done that. Whitewater.
You talk about salmon in that essay.
Well, yeah,
you said you're on the salmon river. And,
I don't want to accuse any salmon, of being stupid, but they're pretty stupid because if I understand it, this is a big deal. Can we get the salmon back up here to mate? Because they swim all the way
to the ocean,
like 1,000 miles, or I don't know how far it is, to get to the Pacific Ocean. Then they have to come all the way back to mate. And along the way, they get, eaten and chopped up in turbines and whatever. So like 3 salmon finally make it, and we're all trying to be like, instead of the obvious solution, which is to fly over the Pacific Ocean with loudspeakers and say, just mate here, stay here, right?
Right.
It's like simple. They're stupid, the salmon. That's all I'm saying. But at least they apparently do exist, unlike the trout. I hate to keep harping on it, but.
Yeah, you are kind of harping on it.
Well, I'm a little bitter.
You're a little bitter.
I spent a day and I got a ticket.
You are running for president. You've been running for president for a while, ever since there were the issue of low flush toilets came about. That was a big one. That's what's got me started. But I'm curious. You're still running for president, so I can ask you PBS-like serious questions.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think about salmon recovery? How should we solve this problem of only 3 salmon? This is your solution? To broadcast to them.
We should stop trying to, I think we're mollycoddling, is that the word? Coddling. We're coddling.
That's a different fish.
No, Well, but there's probably
kind of
lots of cod.
Metaphor,
There's probably a lot of cod, right?
Yeah.
You don't hear cod recovery.
Well, the cod?
Because they've been coddled. They're like, they know. No, that's bad.
I think the cod fishery imploded too. It's all over. This fish thing is all over.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should just import cod here to it's fish, and teach them to just stay in one place. Either stay up here,
in your lane,
and mate, or whatever you have to do, and or stay down there and mate. Maybe the cod marinate. I think maybe the cod will turn out to be smarter than the salmon. They can't be dumber.
One of the other adventures you had was snowmobiling up here, not too far from here at Smiley Creek.
Loved
that.
That was one of the more terrifying days of my life as a parent.
I think your son and his friend had not yet developed the fear lobe of the brain, and basically pitched the snowmobiles into a creek.
I can't remember.
A crick. You have to call it crick here.
A crick.
Yeah.
I can't remember. You probably know better than I because you're the one who read it recently. But they were 13 or 14 years old. They were, and boys of that age are even stupider than salmon, if such a thing is possible. And they wanted to go snowmobile. We were up here to ski, but they wanted to try snowmobiling. And I saw on some guidebook that you go up to Smiley Creek. And so on the way up, I'm telling you, now listen, guys. You're not going to be able to. They're not going to let you drive these things because you're just kids. I'll be driving you, so one of you will stay in the lodge and I'll drive around. Then I'll come back and get the other. And that's what. Okay. No, we get there. It's not like they're really cheerful about it. They know the boys can drive, and these are like I don't know what I pictured. I pictured like a little sled kind of thing. I didn't picture. It's like a Buick. It's a very powerful thing. It can go very fast. It can go like 80 miles an hour. And I also thought we were going to get this long safety lecture, like, don't go there, stay right on the track, keep it under 30. Basically, he said, try to stay in Idaho.
Have fun.
So the next thing I know, these 2, vapor trails are disappearing into the distance. My son and this friend of his, and I'm responsible for that. I can't even catch them. But it turns out, fortunately, their own stupidity saved me because they kept getting stuck. because they would try immediately, the most dangerous looking thing they could find, whatever hill, whatever, they would immediately aim straight for it and go as fast as they could, and they kept getting stuck. So finally we lost one. I mean, they don't, I guess in movies, if you have, this is one side of a river and this is the other side of a river, in a movie, for some reason when you hit that side you don't fall, you just keep going, or even rise into the air.
That's right.
But in real life, which Idaho is part of in some ways, except for the trout, so Ryan, my son's friend, went up, became this airborne bullet and went into the bank of I can't believe he didn't kill himself, but he certainly embedded the snowmobile way beyond, and we have to wait for
the mark is probably still
global warming will have to get much more warm to get that snowmobile back out of there. So we lost that. So I'm now Ryan on the back, and then Rob got stuck somewhere. So I finally ended up back at the Smiley Creek Lodge with the two boys on my snowmobile, and I'm thinking they're going to be so mad at me, and they just laughed because they knew that was what was going to happen. They just went off. They're out
digging everybody out of the snow.
They found the snowmobile.
Now, this is the same son that I think I owe congratulations to you.
Yes,
because he's become a responsible
He's much less stupid now.
And you are now a grandpa.
I am. I'm a grandfather. My grandson Dylan Maxwell Berry was born on May 20th, and so that's my first grandchild.
The fear lobe was gone to the point where he decided to have a kid, huh?
I don't think really he thought, although nobody who has a child knows what he or she is getting into, let's be honest. So
is this, now being grandfathers, is this going to be a whole new iteration of books now on how to be?
I have a book coming out that'll come out next year, and one of the essays in it will be a letter to Dylan of all the things I've learned over the years. And then when I tried to, I'm 67 years old, and I started trying to condense what do I really know that I want to pass along. And the only thing I could come up with I was really sure of is that no matter what people tell you, you don't have to refrigerate ketchup or mustard. You could leave them out, just the way they do in every restaurant in the world.
Full of vinegar and...
Nothing goes wrong. You don't have to put them in your refrigerator. That's the main thing I came up with to tell my grandson. I don't know how helpful that will be. There's other things in there, but that's the one I was most sure of when I thought about it.
And probably not to put a big jock strap on and climb a leaning tree.
Oh, he's going to do that anyway. He's a boy, so there's no point in telling him that.
Well, speaking of books and books for kids and messages to kids, you and Ridley have embarked on another adventure together. It's a literary venture, Peter and the Starcatchers. What a ride this has been. I mean, I know a movie is still is in the works, right?
The way it is with the movie industry, that it could be in the works until
he grows up and becomes Peter Pan and.
But
theoretically. But it was a play on Broadway.
It was a Tony Award-winning play.
What is it? 5 Tonys, nominated for 9, something like that.
Correct.
And talk to me a little bit about this experience and how it's different, or from what you're normally doing. How it's maybe expanded things in some ways. You have a whole new audience.
Yeah, it was a great ride. It was Ridley's idea. She's daughter.
Paige or Story?
Paige.
What's with that anyway?
I know. Paige
he could have at least. Sophie, your daughter. She's got the #1 name in the country.
I know,
right?
and I didn't know when we named her Sophie. We thought we're the only people.
I know. Same
She's
with my
named
brother.
After her grandmother. Who is going to name a kid Sophie? We know that. No, yeah, you're right.
But Paige and Story. So one of the daughters.
He was reading Peter Pan to Paige, the original Peter Pan, Jan Barry's Peter Pan, and she said, "How did Peter Pan meet Captain Hook in the first place?" And Ridley go, "I don't know." And then he was visiting me in Miami because we're in a rock band together of authors, and we were playing at the Miami Book Fair. And he said, "Paige had this idea. I mean, I think it might be a prequel we could do." I mean, he's a prequel, and I said, "Yeah, that's
before really Peter Pan was Peter Pan."
How did Peter Pan? Yeah. How did he fly? How come he can fly? How come he never grows old? What is Tinkerbell? All that stuff. And I said, that's pretty cool. He said, well, you want to do it with me? And I don't know why I thought that would be fun. When it was fun. It was just, we both thought it would be this little book that we would just toss off. We didn't have a publisher.
Well, you said in your books it only takes 2 hours a year to write a children's book.
Yeah,
a children's book, anybody can do it, right?
So, if the only thing easier is poetry.
But yeah, right. Haiku.
Well, TV is pretty.
TV, definitely. They can just knock it off.
Yeah, and So, you know, we wrote this book called Peter and the Starcatchers. Disney published it. It did really well. Then we ended up writing 5 of them all together, and we traveled the country. We met thousands of kids. That's the fun part. We did big book events at Disney World, and
You're Grand Marshal down.
We were the Grand Marshals in the Main Street
so you
Parade.
Know how to do this.
We had to wear the ears and wave.
You did the beauty wave.
Wave to the throng.
Yeah, and all these kids who are probably really intense about the work. I mean, on a serious note, I understand some children who haven't read before or have been interested in reading, this has really pulled them in.
Yeah, no, we get the most wonderful letters from people who say, yeah, my kid never would read, and now, you know, we gave him this book, and it's a lot of times his boys, it turns out, who don't read. And now he just won't stop reading. Ridley got a letter like that from a woman named Katie Coleman, who said, you know, that she had given to her son, and she said at the end of her letter, so I want to request permission to take your book on a trip I'm going to go on to read it to him. And it turns out she was an astronaut. She was going to take it to the space station, and she Skyped to her son every night from the space station. Skyped the book. So that was pretty cool.
You mentioned Rock Bottom and Remainders. On our way out here, we're rapidly running out of time. I wonder if you could do a favor for me.
Oh my God, you're not going to ask me to sing, are you?
You could hum it.
What?
Well, Proofreading Woman.
I did it.
Because that's what I am. I mean, you know, and I've never heard, I've never heard
us perform?
I've never heard a ballad to me before. Can you do a few verses of it?
I'm in love. Well, okay, you have to go, he's in love. We'll get the crew here. Okay. I'm going to go, I'm in love, and when I say that, you have to go, he's in love. And if you don't do it, I'm not doing it. Ready? Let's practice it, crew. I'm in love.
He's in love.
See, pretty good, the crew. Okay. I'm in love with a proofreading woman. Gonna love her till the day I die. She's got a big dictionary, real good grammar. She never says between you and I. I'm in love.
He's in love.
I screwed it up, but you.
Never says you and I.
The crew is very good here now. They'll have to be paid lots of royalties for that now.
Definitely. We'll look into that. In this instance, I can say you and I have had a fun conversation.
It was fun.
And for that, I'm grateful. PBS, you know, sometimes stands for pretty boring stuff. This hasn't been.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure, and just remember that there are no trout.
I'll remember that.
Okay.
We'll work on it for
If we can just get that word out, we'll have done our job.
That's important. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Well, that was a lot of fun. If you'd like to relive the experience or just learn more about Dave Barry or the Sun Valley Writers Conference, check out the Dialogue website. Just go to idahoptv.org and click on Dialogue. For Dialogue, I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks for tuning in.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. Check out our website, become a friend on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter.